February 26, 2025, and my message today is titled, Stories We Tell Ourselves. Stories are powerful. When I stop and pay attention, I realize that stories are running through my head all the time. Stories about the world around me, stories about myself, stories that replay past events, stories that rehearse the future, not yet here. What is the flavor of these stories? Are they hopeful, fearful, angry, loving? Are they true? Can they change? Am I aware of their power? What is my own power in relation to these stories? That's what I'd like to talk about today. So, I know that I replay stuff. I'll bet everyone here does too. Probably if I asked you, about your childhood, or where you went to school, or your employment history, I bet memories will pop up. Certain things would be real prominent, and so on. And I realized that I replay things that happened 10 minutes ago or yesterday. Oh, I see at least one head nodding. This is familiar to some folks, yeah? They just keep coming. And also, I have this habit of rehearsing things. So yesterday, major point, I'm in my office and I'm preparing for this talk. And yes, I literally rehearse. I see myself standing up here, and I try this line, and I try that line. I see you out there. And I know that Juxta's over here taking care of things. I'm literally rehearsing. But that's not the only time I do rehearsing. I might be gonna visit with a friend of mine at 4 o'clock, and I think about the drive there, and I think about things we might talk about, and so on. And I'm just betting that a lot of you do that sort of thing too. And then a couple of questions. We do all this thinking, this storytelling in our head. What's the main message behind it? What's kind of the foundation for that? So I start with, what's the main message you got from your mom? What's the main message you got from your dad, or whoever it was that raised you when you were a child? What was the main message? So of course I have to ask myself this question, what's the main message that my mom gave me? Her message was competence. She said in her words and showed in her actions that you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. You can do anything. That was my mother's message to me and my sisters. What was my dad's message? My dad's message was different. His message was that to be kind, to be loving, to be accepting, that's a good way to be. So very different messages, and I carry both of those. Those kind of drive my other stories that I tell in my head and how I relate to the world. I worked for many years as a dietitian and a diabetes educator. I had a lot of clients, and very often the clients who came to my office had very different messages. Often it fell under the umbrella of, I am stupid. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't cook. I can't learn how to take this medication. I can't organize my schedule to take those pills on time. I can't, and I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And these were pretty much the general main message behind most of my clients, in fact. Our culture also gives us messages, not just our parents, but our whole culture. And in my way of thinking, messages that come from our culture are to be perfect. To be perfect is a good thing. To be busy is a good thing. To be idle is not a good thing. To strive, to accomplish this sort of driven concept, which is not the same in all cultures everywhere. So if a person happens to be not perfect, oh, I'm bad, I'm not good enough. It feeds back, it feeds back. So that's my idea about, having, first of all, realizing we have these stories and then what's behind them. What's our main messages? So when we think about that, then what are the flavors of the stories? Hopeful, fearful, angry, loving, true? Is that true? Oh, that's a very important question. Is that true? I hear something, I have an idea about it. Is the thing I heard true, and is my idea about it true? Those are questions I ask myself a lot. Am I aware of the power of the stories in my head? They are very powerful. I'm not 100% certain if my clients would or would not have developed type 2 diabetes. That was the vast majority of my clients in my career. They may have developed it, or they may not. I think there's a great connection between mind and body. But let's just say body was programmed, it's going to do that. How well the client was able to cope, to manage, to deal with, to live with this new reality of having type 2 diabetes depended a great, great deal on what was the story they were telling. If their story was, like my mom, I can do this thing. I can do it. I can take those pills. I can take them on time. I can. Then those clients would tend to come to my office once, or maybe I'd have a class series. They'd take the series, and then I'd never see them again because they'd be okay. But if their story was not, then I just can't. I'm not good enough. I have problem after problem after problem. This flavor behind their stories was really, really impacting their capacity to live, to deal, to cope. So I believe myself that stories are very powerful. And then the question comes, can they change? Can the stories change? Well, there's a whole science out there. It's called neuroscience now, and it's telling us constantly that sure they can. Because if you think about, they talk about neural pathways. My teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, talks about habit patterns. It's the same exact thing. Neural pathways or habit patterns. If I've run down the highway saying, I can do anything I set my mind to, or if I ran down the highway, I can't do this, I can't do that, it makes a big difference. So what they used to tell us, maybe you remember this, that the human brain was done. I forget if it was 5 or 8 years old. They used to say that. And then it was 24. And now they tell us the whole thing is neuroplasticity, and it can change at any and every age. Every age. We can change our brain, we can change our mind, we can change our stories. We can. So the way that I think about it is okay, if I think of that neural pathway as a highway, I'm just going down the highway, but it's not really a helpful one to me, so I'd like to make a new path. When I step off the highway, and you can exit ramp anytime off your story highway, but it's going to be like stepping into the deep woods, and you're going to make a path because you haven't been down that path before. You haven't been there. You've been driving your car here all the time. You haven't been there. So it's going to be like, require effort. It's going to require some effort. And it won't happen every time, and you'll forget, and you'll go back down your highway. But it is possible. It is possible to do. So when I look at my power in relation to my stories, I need a couple of things. One I need is awareness. I first need to be aware that I am having stories in my head, stories about myself, stories about the world, and then to be curious about those stories. Is this story that I tell about myself, that I tell to myself about the world, is this story true? And then, is this story helpful or useful to me? Or is it actually harmful to me? Curiosity and asking the question. And then, if it's not helpful or useful to me, can I frame it differently? Can I frame my story differently? I'll give you a little example. This last fall was really hard on me. I had things going on in my family that were very, very challenging. Oh, and then I got a whole 90-day shipment of medical equipment that failed. And it's very cumbersome to try to get replacements for that stuff. And I was billed for a medical thing that didn't happen to me, and now they're threatening me by fall. That happened in April. They're threatening to send me to small claims court or collections or whatever, because I didn't pay for this thing I didn't have done. And I'm thinking, okay, and then I got a late fee on my Visa card for a payment I didn't send, except I did, and it's just one after the other. But behind all that was in the fall, I still have it, I have this big project that has to do with my Buddhist family, my big family. And I have a project for the whole Midwest, and I want to be spending time on it, and I couldn't. I was drained of energy and literally of time because of these other things. And then I just decided, well, this isn't the time for me to work on that project. This isn't the right time. It's just not. And I told this story to a friend recently, and she said, wow, that's really interesting that you framed your story that way. She said, you could have said, man, the world is against me. But instead, you chose to say, oh, it's just not the right time yet for that. So that's an example of how to frame something a little differently. I mean, I could have told a really different story than that. So to kind of wrap it together, I would like to say that our stories are constant in our own head and in our culture, that stories are powerful, that we are likely quite unaware that they exist, that they might not be true, and that they may not be helpful. We're just kind of unaware of those things. And without the awareness, the stories will reinforce themselves. It's that neuropath highway. It's gonna just keep going by its own momentum. But with awareness and some effort and some curiosity, we actually do have the power to change our stories. And my hope today is that during this coming week or so, you might recognize the stories and actually just ask the question, oh, is that true? Is that helpful? You can benefit a lot if you do those things. Thank you for hearing me.